and welcome to another edition, episode number 38 of the Lab Epstein Dating Podcast. Jim here, alongside my friend, co-host, former coach, professional evaluator, successful business owner, and a man with a great head of hair, Jake Epstein. Good morning. I only say that because you complimented me on how well I look today.
Yeah, you do. Well, I need to visit the guy that trims up the hair a little bit, but you know what? Winter, wearing a lot of beanies in Colorado this past week. So it's all good. I mean, it's not man bun length or anything crazy like that. I did have some bad hair days, in the early, I would say the mid, like 2000s, close to 2010. It wasn't a good look for me. So, I try to keep it a little trimmed up nowadays. Look presentable.
I'm Italian, as you know. I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe the slick back look. What that would
be? Yeah. I went through that too. That was more the college.
Okay.
I had a lot of Italian roommates, so I had to keep up with them.
I think that one of these days you and I should just both slick our hair back and look like two Italians just hitting on a podcast. So that's what I think we should do one day.
It was funny. I had a pop-up on Netflix or something. It said Goodfellas has been added to your list. I'm like, of course it has, because it's one of the greatest movies ever. And I don't know. I clicked on it. I had like 10 minutes, and I watched the first 10 minutes of it yesterday, and I love it. Yeah, like it's such a great movie. And when he comes home with little, young Henry comes back and he says, "Hey, Mom, how do I look?" And he's got like a suit on, and he's got his pointy-toed shoes, and she's like, "Oh my God, you look like a gangster." Yeah.
I've been, I was just telling you off the air, I was watching a special on JonBenet Ramsey, the girl who was killed many years ago. She was my age, actually, in Boulder, Colorado. And I've been watching, I don't know what it is. I watched a documentary on gang violence in the 70s and 80s last week. I watched a documentary on mob violence. I watched The Godfather recently. I'm on like this crime kick. Not that The Godfather is crime completely, but I'm on this just this kick of watching these crime documentaries and shows. I don't know what it is. I don't get it. I'm just going through that one of my phases, my early year phase, I guess.
Yeah, or it could just be the world we live in is brainwashing you into, thinking there's a lot of violence and you're trying to get in on it.
Maybe. Well, I'm not trying. I don't know about trying to get in on the violence.
Psychologically, though, you're getting brainwashed. Right?
But a lot of people don't know this about me. I think you may know this about me. I watch a lot of not so much 2020, but I watch a lot of Dateline. A lot of Dateline. I love that show. Absolutely love it. I watch it on the OWN. Now I'm guessing that's the Oprah network. I think the OWN network. I don't know if I should be admitting all this, and this is going to come back.
Probably not, Jim. We probably just lost some listeners with that.
But I have a passion for like that crime stuff. But I don't watch CSI, so That's not right. That's not the same thing to me.
Yeah, our DVR has about 40 hours, I think, of Dateline, which we never get to. We never get to, but it is. It's so addicting. But there's so many commercials. But some of the hosts or the reporters, they're actually the most entertaining to me. The white-haired guy, the older Keith. Guy that makes everything so dramatic, might be one of the best characters ever. He should have like a Saturday Night Live skit.
I think you know what it's a good thing you brought that up. He does. Keith Morrison's his name, and he actually does have people who played him in the past on Saturday Night Live. And his I looked this up one night because he is my favorite host too. And he sometimes paired with the lady, I forget her name, the blonde haired woman. She's in the beginning of the episode, and then at the end the hard open or the hard close. But his nephew is, I don't know if you ever watched the show Friends. His nephew is Matt Chandler, whoever plays the actor Chandler. I forget his name.
Perry.
Yes, that's his nephew.
There you go.
Yeah, he is. But he is my favorite. By the way, I didn't get to this last week, and I want to ask you. It's kind of a stupid question, but Major League Baseball is thinking about doing this. And there's a couple of rules that came out this week. about what Major League Baseball plans to do in 2021, and we'll get to that in a second. But the NHL just started back up, thank God, and they've got hopefully they'll have fans in the stands very soon. But the NHL division naming rights are now into effect, and I saw that on TV this week, watching a couple of games, how they were highlighting the divisions, and they had the sponsors underneath. I want to know your thoughts on that becoming a reality in baseball, if it does. I know it's kind of a stupid question, but I'm surprised with how many people out there, from what the research I've done, actually have an opinion on it. I couldn't care less, but some people think it's just, again, messing with the game, I guess, and among other things.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have an opinion one way or the other. I go back and look at all the baseball, the Ken Burns, baseball stuff, and the giant billboards, of like Ballantine beer. You would see them just plastered all over the place. So I don't know. I watch a lot of golf, and those guys have every part of their bag's got something. The front of their hat, their side of their hat, their lapel, the shirts. So I guess I'm accustomed to that. Baseball, I'm looking at that uniform, and if they start throwing stuff on the uniform, I don't know. I might have a different.
So you're not for the uniform part. You're not for the stuff being thrown on the uniform.
I don't think so.
Okay. How about the I'm actually for that, but I don't really. Yeah. Again, I don't. It's not that I'm for it. I don't really. I guess I don't care. It wouldn't bother me, I guess, because I've seen it done before. I think they do it overseas. I think they do it in Mexico in the Mexican Baseball League. What about this? Is something.
I mean, if it said Chico's bail bonds, then I think I would be okay. If it said Chico's bail bonds on the back,
or it said, or if it said Epstein online hitting
academy. That might be good. I'm sure that's in my budget to put that on a Yankees pinstripe jersey.
I think teams, I don't know why they don't do this more. They're starting to roll this out, but having the sponsors or a logo on the tarp. I don't know why teams don't do that more. I guess because maybe it doesn't rain enough, or it's not.
They cut away,
enough.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think baseball's done a really. Last year they did there were so many ads like on the back of the mound. Right, you would see some kind of logo that would change every time that they just put in there, or behind home plate. That one's always So I think you're getting visibility from TV, which is what you need, right? Because it's not like the people are at the games right now. So I don't know if I would touch the uniforms with anything too big right now. I don't know. That's just me. I mean, maybe if you wanted to throw a patch on the sleeve and everyone had the same patch.
Yeah.
I think I would be okay with that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't even like, sometimes you get all the playoff patches on the hats, then the hats look all, I don't know. You got a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, that would cost a company a lot of money though, too. I'm not really taking that into effect because you see that patch and that logo. That's the first thing you see on their uniform. When you think about it, I mean, that's the first thing you see when you're watching it on TV. You see that patch on their uniform.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I think the players union is too strong for that. I think the owners will be like, let's NASCAR this thing up, no problem.
Right. Let's make up for the lost revenue in 2020.
Yeah. But the players union, I'm sure will.
Also, I can't remember. We discussed this earlier in the summer. I can't remember if you were for or against it. But from what I've read, in 2021, the rule of the extra inning rule of the runner at second base is coming back, and they're doing this. I don't like this. That I don't mind as much. I can tolerate it one more year, or I guess I can get used to it. But this is one I don't like. They're doing 7-inning doubleheaders, even if it's a day-night doubleheader. I think they're doing 7-inning doubleheaders. I don't like that. I like the traditional, and I know players don't like it, and I know a lot of people don't like it. Sometimes I don't really like it or wouldn't like it, but I think it's tradition, and it's something that you have to get through it. And I like the 9-inning game starting at 1, and then the nightcap 9-inning game starting at 7. Now they're saying that the double headers are going to be 7 innings long, and I'm on the record now. I'm sorry. In the minor leagues it's okay, but right now at the major league level, I'm saying it now, I absolutely hate it.
I'll tell you what I would hate is a day-night doubleheader. That just
and that's
seems like,
I understand that. Yeah.
right. Like that, you just get that off the schedule. So they're trying to, they're not making the gate. So there's no reason to have new gates, 2 new gates or something like that. A split where they clear out the stadium and bring it. As a player, you lose everything. Sometimes in college, a doubleheader is pretty cool because you get the other guys that don't get to play as much, right? The backup catcher gets to play that second game, and that's pretty fun. I feel like pitching is really going to get depleted when you start throwing double headers out there. Your bullpen is going to feel that. So what is I guess I'm not up to speed on how many of those are those scheduled double headers, or those double headers they're throwing in because we're losing games of COVID if there's an outbreak, something like that.
I think all of the above.
Yeah. I mean, scheduled double headers, I think, are just, I guess if we're playing 162 game season, I don't think there's a need for that. I think they, if they're going to go to a regular season, as far as making up games, 2 7s, I guess I'm for it, because you got to do what you got to do to get the games in. But
so you're begrudgingly for it.
I'm begrudging. I wouldn't be for a 7-inning double header if it was scheduled. Like, hey, on May 15th, we're going to have a double header. But if it's like, hey, we had an outbreak, we got to make up these games, I think that's probably a smart thing to do, just to save some pitching and some wear and tear on the bodies. If you can save, a third of a game.
I don't know. I hope it doesn't extend past 2021. I personally, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm a traditionalist in that way. I'm open to new ideas, but I hate this 7-inning game stuff. Even in college, though, they do 2. If they're doing a double header, they do Sundays. 2. They do 2. Don't they do 2?
2 7s. I remember
now.
Usually.
Do they do 2 7s? I thought they do 2 9s. I thought, okay. Well, I'm not for it. I'm on the record of saying that, but
okay.
Sorry about that, everybody. I know some people are cheering that, but saying it's shorter. And players certainly love it too. I'm not.
Players definitely love it.
Yeah. By the way, they do get the owners and teams. They do get extra revenue when they do day-night double headers. That's why they love it so much. That's why they're always for it. The players are not, obviously, but that's why they do those 2 gates, and they get that a little bit of extra revenue from what I've read. There was a Reggie Jackson quote I want to pass along to you here that I found. I didn't get to it last week, and I want to give it to you now, and I want to kind of get your thoughts on it. It's an interesting quote. He says, there are 3 kinds of advantages that the pitcher and batter contest. There's the physical advantage, the strategic advantage, and the psychological advantage. And we've touched on all of those things, just use different terminology on previous episodes. And he goes on to say, I didn't want 2 out of the 3. I wanted them all. So that's just kind of goes to show you what kind of stone cold killer of a hitter Reggie Jackson was. But that's an interesting way. He's thinking about hitting an interesting prism there. He's basically looking at it through the lens of 3 different avenues that a successful hitter, I think, must have, but oftentimes kind of, especially with the younger guys and gals, overlooks when trying to become a successful hitter and training for an upcoming season.
Those are great. I mean, those are probably 3 attributes of any great athlete or great player. I mean, you could look at Tiger Woods, right? I mean, he's definitely got that psychological, or he did that psychological approach when he would play players, right? There's gamesmanship that goes on. Remember Al Raboski, coming out of the bullpen and blowing up the rosin bag, right? I mean, he was intimidating, like he was trying to get that edge. So you can, I think that's a great quote. I don't think I've ever heard that quote. But that is a great quote that it does. And everybody's different. I think, some people can get in the batter's box and command that respect and assertiveness. But if you do that too much, you piss off the pitcher. Right. Now the pitcher's like, well, screw this guy. I'm going to stick one in his ear. Right. I'm going to bear down and really get after him. And my dad always used to say, because he grew up watching Mantle, and I think we've mentioned this, it looked like he was dragging his bat up to home plate. Like, he was very unassuming. Mm-hmm. He wasn't staring at the pitcher. He wasn't trying to intimidate anybody. He just wanted to get in the box and get in his own safe space and let that pitcher kind of fall asleep to him. But if you give the pitcher a reason to bear down and shove it up your ass, mm-hmm. you got real problems. Like, that's the last thing you want to do. So, mm-hmm. And I think everybody's different. That would be more of a football mindset. But you get, and Reggie was a guy that was, I'm going to get in there and do damage and hit home runs. And, he was, one of the earlier guys I don't think he was a big bat flip guy, but he was definitely somebody that watched his home runs. Mm-hmm. And that was his thing. But he also, up until recently, I think he and Babe Ruth were the all-time strikeout leaders. Right. So there were times when pitchers probably did bear down, like, screw this guy, I'm going to get after him.
Yeah. Hey, taking care of your mentals was just uploaded, archived episode on YouTube, the full episode on our YouTube channel, the Lab Epstein Hitting YouTube channel. So you should go, I think, check that out now if you haven't done so already, and check out our YouTube channel. But in that, we talked about having the psychological advantage as a hitter. And I want to just quickly touch on that. How do you avoid, you want to get that psychological advantage, but sometimes you overthink trying to get that advantage over the pitcher. How do you avoid psyching yourself out as a hitter? Because you just mentioned with Mickey Mantle right there that he drug his bat up to the plate and just wanted to get into the box. It was very simple. Sometimes you with other guys, they have a certain walk. I see Javi Baez when he goes up there. He has a certain walk as he walks to the plate. Other guys are a little more unassuming. Neither way is wrong. Mm-hmm. But how do you avoid that risk of psyching yourself out when you get to the plate? Because if you do that, then the pitcher has the advantage right there.
I think we have to differentiate mental and psychological, because mental mm-hmm. is me having a plan what I want to do.
Yeah.
Psychological is I want to make that pitcher fear me. Mm-hmm. I want to make him try to squeeze that fastball or snap that breaking ball a little bit more. So, that's me going up to the – now, psychological also, Baez feels good about himself, right? Yeah. I'm walking up to the plate. My music's on. I'm peacocking a little bit, right? I got my chest out. I'm feeling good. I'm strutting up there. I'm in a hot streak. Maybe he's not in a hot streak. Maybe he's trying to feel like he's in a hot streak. So, to me, that's the psychological approach, which is going to be very, very different with each player. Now, the mental approach, I think, is more strategic to that player, right? So whether it's Mantle, who's just kind of chilling out, walking up there, or a Baez who's a little more amped up, in their brain, they know what they're looking for, right? In their brain, they have a plan. Well, the last time I faced this pitcher, he got me out doing this, and this. I'm going to go ahead and sit and attack this zone and this speed until I have 2 strikes. So I think that's, that's more the mental side and the smart side. And the psychological side is maybe how you feel personally. Mm-hmm. Feel great, or you are trying to put fear in the pitcher. I honestly think that pitchers don't care. I think pitchers are doing their job like hitters are doing their job. They have a plan. They're taught well. Now, you do have some pitchers that are more intimidating than others. Mm-hmm. But I don't really think you're going to psych a pitcher out just by the way you look. Now, your presence and, Reggie hit, 35 home runs, in the postseason or whatever, So, he has this aura of, hey, man, this is a clutch guy. That's psychological right there. Yeah. But Reggie looking at the pitcher with his, Coke bottle aviator glasses, probably wasn't going to intimidate anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. You become, when you try too hard mentally to be something you're not, then you just become a caricature of a hitter, right? That's pretty much what you're doing. All right. Well, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast for new episodes every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We're available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio, the app, Pandora, and our YouTube page is up, of course. The Lab Epstein Hitting podcast with clips and archived episodes. So be sure to check that out and follow us on social media at Jim Tara, at Epstein Hitting on both Twitter and Instagram, the 2 worst platforms ever made. And also, if you go back in the archives, I'm sorry, Twitter and Instagram, but you do suck. I do hate you. Wish you were never invented. You want to re-listen to our mechanical breakdown series, follow along with the analysis on the Epstein hitting Facebook page. There's two separate things right there that you kind of have to do. But if you're interested and you want to listen to our mechanical breakdown series, we have one coming up very soon, a new one. Then that's how you can go ahead and do it. We have a listener question that I want to pass along to you here, Ep, and it comes to us from Dominic via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. And Dominic writes, "Hi, Jim. Great show. This is the first time I am writing to you guys, and I wanted to get Jake to clarify something. I often see on social media different debates about when the swing actually starts. When Jake is teaching the swing and the proper technique, when does the swing actually start, in his opinion? Is it different for everyone? Does it matter the type of timing step or hip counter rotation? Thanks for answering." And that is from Dominic. Great question, Dominic. Thank you again for emailing us again. jimbopodcast21@gmail.com.
That's a good question, Dominic. The people have different ideas of when it. I know Don Slott, who's been a big league hitting coach and is a really good hitting guy. You know, he says that the swing starts when the back elbow drops. So that's, you know, I usually tell people the swing starts when the front heel plants and the front hip starts to rotate. That's kind of when it's go time. Now we can hesitate a little bit there if it's an off-speed pitch, but that's about go time. The reason I don't like the back elbow move is because I work with so many youth players, and I was doing a video the other day, and the back elbow moves a lot of times before the front foot drops and before the shoulders rotate.
So wait, I'm sorry. Can I stop? Can I just stop you? What is the back?
No, absolutely.
What is? That's it. Show over. Talk to you next week. What is the back? What is the back elbow drop? I think some people are might be a little confused by that.
So if the back elbow starts up, you know, it's not against it's not in the slot, or it's not against the body. So when it starts up, and then, you know, if you watch most big leaguers, you know, slot is pretty much right. You'll see that front foot land, and then the elbow comes at the same time. And when the elbow comes, the back shoulder comes at the same time. So it's kind of like, I remember we were at a convention together speaking, and I think it may have been a softball convention. And so we were talking about that, and I heard him, and I picked up some really good things with his talk. But it was, you know, he was big on the elbow, and I'm like, you know, do you work with 12-year-olds? Because that elbow's out of control, and that elbow will drop before the body even starts to rotate. Where if it's done properly, the body starts to turn and the elbow moves at the same time. So for me, you know, if I'm, you know, just, you know, Dominic's asking me this question, I would say what you do prior to that left hip starting to rotate. Okay, so the left hip's going to start to rotate right about the time the front toe touches and the heel's about to plant. That's when you're a right-handed hitter.
Yeah.
If you're a right-hand hitter, think about your front foot, your front knee, and your front hip. If you're everybody strides. Whether it's a strike or a ball, everyone should stride.
Right.
Everybody's going to load. So everybody's going to load. So we've talked about my load means I'm getting ready to step. So that doesn't really mean my leg kick yet. I'm getting ready. I'm starting to move. I'm starting to shift weight into my rear side. So that is whatever. That has nothing to do with the swing. The stride has nothing to do with the swing. But when your foot's about at its peak during the stride, the highest point on its way down, that's when your brain's going to say, is this a strike or is it a ball? Is this one I'm going to swing, or am I going to take? Am I just going to drop my foot? And if I just drop my foot, typically my front knee and my front hip doesn't open that much. Or it's go time. Now all of a sudden, as my foot's on its way down, my front knee is going to start to open, my front hip's going to start to open. All of that should happen with our back elbow still in position, not dropped yet, still up, and our back shoulder still up, so that we have separation and torque. So to me, the swing starts with the opening of the front knee and hip.
So it doesn't start with any stride or anything like that?
Nope, not for me, because I feel like the swing, like the actual swing itself starts there. The rhythm, my pre-swing movements is what my dad would call them. Pre-swing movements is everything that happens before the swing from your stance. So you have your stance, you're just sitting there rocking around, what's going on, feeling some rhythm.
Sure.
And then when you start to load into your back foot and take your stride, which is very different. He mentioned a hip coil, right? Or hip cock, the front shoulder coming down. people call scalp loading. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Yeah. That would be considered a pre-swing movement. That's me getting ready to swing. But when it's go time, so think about a bow and arrow. Like, when does the bow and arrow release, right? What is the start of that process? Is it putting the bow and arrow putting the arrow into the bow and pulling it back, or is it upon release? So I would say the arrow's coming out. That would be shooting the arrow. Everything before that, loading that arrow, would be considered a pre-swing movement.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how I do my teaching. That's my teaching. I try not to mess around too much with a player's style. I'll make suggestions. Hey, why don't you try this stride? You like an open stance? You like it closed? I'm not going to change that. That's not, everybody's different. Jose Bautista, right? Had like crazy stance. Tony Fernandez had a crazy stance. Euclid had a crazy stance, whatever. Rizzo. But when they get to heel plant and they start to rotate and that swing starts, that's when all the commonalities really set in between most major league hitters, or most all hitters.
And for the record, I agree with everything you're saying there, but there is a lot of stuff out there that people say, well, the swing starts here, it starts the stance. I saw that one time too. The swing starts in the stance, and a lot a lot of people that aren't you, that this rich knowledge of hitting will get confused.
Yeah, they'll get confused.
So, all right. Anyway, Dominic, good question. Thank you. And again, if anybody has questions, email us.
Is it Dominic with a C or a K at the end?
Dominic with a K. I have a cousin named Dominic with a K. Maybe him. He didn't tell me where he's from.
Oh, I figured there would be, if it was Dominic, the last name would end with a vowel.
No, it's like Dominic with a K.
No, I mean, his last name would end with a vowel. Like
I don't know. Yeah, he didn't tell. Yeah, he didn't. You know what? I didn't get his email. I don't want to say his email on the air, but.
No.
But I think he is Italian. Yes.
I think this is good. We're building in our Italian base.
That's right. First, Dom. That's the first. He's like Dominic's. That's the first time Dominic has emailed us. It's like in sports talk radio. I don't listen to sports talk radio anymore. But like when the callers say, "Hey, first time caller, long time listener." Yeah. Sometimes I want to call the station one day and just say, "Hey, first time listener, long time caller." Flip it on. Oh my God, I hate sports talk. All right, well, thank you, Dominic, for that question. We do appreciate it. And before we get into our topic today, talking off-season hitter meetings, I want to let everybody know I'm proud of this. But we have new listeners now in New Zealand. Our listenership in New Zealand has gone up. And I'm sure they're wondering, how do I get in touch with this guy who understands hitting? And he seems to really know what he's doing. And he seems to give great lessons. But I'm in New Zealand and I can't get to America. I probably don't want, they probably don't even want to get to America right now. But what do I do? What do I do? So I would suggest you go to the Epstein Online Hitting Academy.com or EpsteinHitting.com and the online academy, and you sign up for a membership. But I mean, you know better than me. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's absolutely, and the nice part is, we speak the same language. In New Zealand. Sometimes it's hard if I'm getting players from Asia because I have no idea how to communicate there, right? Like that's a problem I have. But in New Zealand and most of Europe, I can we can get it done. So yeah, absolutely, the Epstein Online Academy. Send in your videos. We'll mark it up. I'll get you a drill plan. We'll get better. I always mention my boy Nick down there. Hopefully he's listening in I don't know what part of Australia. The Gold Coast, maybe? Northeast Australia? Is that considered the Gold Coast?
That is, I had a family member who lived in Australia not too long ago, and he lived, I think, in the area you're talking about.
It's a pretty good
eastern
baseball
part. Yes.
Yeah. And so he they sent me all his stats. He went to an awesome they had like a little showcase there, and he sent me all his data. They sent him from Rapsodo and from Blast, and I'm like, buddy, you're locked in. And he's a gamer. Like, most importantly, the guy finds barrels. Like, he gets hits every single game. He's a good player. I think we mentioned him. He's going to school. He's coming to go to school in the States, but
was it Missouri?
Somewhere in Missouri.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and so he's, but I think he wants to get, signed. Mm-hmm. I really do. I think that's his goal, and he plays for. I don't know if you guys remember, or the local scout down there is Dave Nielsen. I don't know if you remember him. He was actually a big guy, big catcher for the Brewers, probably in the late '80s, early '90s. Gosh, I hope I'm right. No, it was probably '90s. And he's an Australian-born guy, and so he kind of runs stuff down there. But anyway, they play good ball. In fact, I was working with a team the other night in Denver, and they had at the facility, and they had an Australian baseball game on the Australian Winter League. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to watch. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, all those players should probably join the Epstein Online Academy.
I agree. My family member took my godson to an Australian baseball league game when they lived there many years ago.
Right on.
So Australia is there's a little bit of a pocket of baseball there in that country.
Yeah.
That is pretty predominant. Now, again, everybody in Australia, New Zealand, America, just log on to EpsteinHitting.com and you can log on to and sign up for the Epstein Online Hitting Academy. And by the way, question, how do you connect with people who don't speak English on the Epstein Online Hitting Academy? Because you have players from all over.
Yeah, I do. They either know someone that speaks English or they're able to translate the audio that comes through. So I don't do anything special for because there is a handful of Asian players that send stuff in, and they probably speak English. Or some sort of English. For the drills, it's not a problem, right? Because we're demonstrating the drills, and I go through exactly how to hold the bat and where to put the bat and where to, So you could copy that. The analysis, they can follow the lines, and I make it, I use a little bit more graphics to make sure that they're seeing where the elbow is, or where the hands are, where the front shoulder is. But I'm sure they have someone there. I don't have any special software.
Okay, so again,
and my kids don't speak Chinese yet. I have them trying to learn Mandarin.
What about Spanish? Do they learn Spanish?
Of course, yes, Spanish. Spanish is good. I wish I'm decent at Spanish. I can understand Spanish.
Yo hablo español.
Speak it great. Yeah.
Yo hablo español. I speak that. I speak Spanish.
You do.
I do.
I know. That's your job, man.
We've talked about this before. So again, log on to EpsteinHitting.com and click on the Online Hitting Academy to sign up. It is a great feature, and it's not like I have my workouts where I get my workouts. That's like an online thing too, from a guy. I'm gonna give him a plug here. He has his own podcast as well, Joe DeFranco. He does in-person training, and he's trained many athletes. He's actually he's in Florida a lot at the wrestling academy. What's it called? The WWE center there in Orlando, and he's down here a lot. But he also has a huge online website that you can get your workouts from. You become what's called an insider, a DeFranco insider. I mean,
there you go.
Really shilling for this guy here, but you're welcome, Joe. We have listeners in every friggin' country in this world. But in all seriousness, the online Epstein Online Hitting Academy is very similar to that. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, let's get into our topic, episode number 38 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. And by the way, I think our tagline should be the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, Finding Barrels.
Yeah, I like to find barrels. That's what it's about. You can stand on your head and find a barrel.
Yeah.
I posted the other day on Twitter because we love Twitter.
We do.
And Instagram.
We do.
But I posted your boy Vlad Guerrero Jr. just hitting like 10 balls, 15 balls right in the back of the cage, finding a barrel on every single one. Not worrying about how high it was or how hard it was, just finding a barrel. Baseball's so hard to find a barrel. It's so hard to find that small sweet spot. Maybe we should do more training to get our eyes and our barrel to coordinate together instead of trying to, hit with our third and fourth toe digging into the ground.
There's some funky drills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go back to the meat and potatoes, right?
Meat and potatoes.
Yeah. That was a great video you did tweet, by the way, at Epstein Hitting on Twitter. It was just so simple. Just he's Vlad Guerrero. just so very simple through the zone.
Yeah.
Episode 38 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, fastest growing podcast, hitting podcast that is on the market. Talking today about about off-season hitter meetings, pretty much at every level, and this stretches across professional hitters, working with their respective coaches in the off-season, or their own coaches away from facilities, college hitters, and even high school hitters as well, and how they can kind of help structure their meetings with that instructor during winter training. Because we've said before that hitting is a conversation. I think all hitters starting high school up should have that open line of communication with their instructor and say, hey, I want to work on this, or just give feedback and have that conversation. I mean, do you agree with that?
Your hitting coach and your player have to have a relationship like no other, almost like a psychiatrist you would have, or psychologist. You have to trust. If your player trusts you as a coach completely, then there will never be secrets and there will never be doubt in that player's mind. Now, how do you build that trust? You build it slowly. When you meet a player for the first time, they aren't going to be like, wow, this guy is, what a great reputation. He was a great player in the big leagues. He was, he has a great online presence, whatever it is. You have to be able to connect to that player and show them what they're doing. And they have to believe you. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy, he's not a lot of eye watch, right? Like, he's really into helping me as a player. And that takes time. Like, that doesn't take a week, that takes a week of, hey, if you want to come check this out, come check it out. Not, hey, you're required to come meet with your hitting coach. Because if you create that kind of environment, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So let's talk about professional hitter meetings, and we'll start at the top of the pyramid and work our way down. Looking at it professionally, let's just take it from the scenario of a hitting coach that's employed by an organization. All hitters obviously go away for the offseason. Some stay at the complex, whatever. And some take a liking to certain coaches that they had, and they work with them throughout the entire year. How can you properly, if you're a hitting coach inside an organization that's being employed and paid by a major league organization on the player development side and the major league side, how do you go about making hitter meetings for players who are away from the facility and are working out on their own for the off-season period?
You want to have the conversation about what, how did you feel your season went? What do you feel? What were your strengths? What were your weaknesses? If we look at our spray charts, it might say something like you really chased in this area, or you were very successful in this area, but the pitch away you struggled with. And 72% of the pitches you got were away, but they weren't necessarily on the corner. So let's see. Maybe we have a plan. Look, you should really focus and work on driving balls to right center field. Okay. So me as a player or as a coach, there are ways that I would do that. Like, this is how, this is the process. This is mechanically what we're going to do. Now, if we break down your swing, Johnny, it's the reason you give away that is because your front shoulder spins a little early, right? You're focused on really, rotating fast. Well, that is great on pitches middle in, but pitches middle away, we actually have to decelerate our body, or our body can't rotate as much. So that's what you need to work on. Whether or not he chooses to hear that information is up to him. Does Johnny want to have a job next year?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So Johnny, this is where, or hey, you had a great year. Let's work on let's work on leaning out, or getting a little bit stronger, or getting faster, or something like that. But, I think the hitting's in a good place. So whatever you did last offseason, just continue to do that to grow as a hitter. So,
Sure.
But you're right. That player is going to go home, and maybe dad's going to work with him, or maybe other players. So we had a player come back to the lab. That was a college player who worked with us for almost an entire year until he went to college, right? We opened in January. He went to college. Okay, so like 8-9 months. Transformed this hitter into something that was much better. I know Matt spent a lot of time with him. I spent a lot of time with him. And he goes and he has a great fall, at his freshman fall at a D1 program. And when they sent him back over break, they're like, hey, don't let anybody work with you.
Right.
Like that was the college coach's swing. And he's like, well, that was the person that got me. Like, that's why I had such a good, obviously he didn't say that, but he comes back in the lab. He's like, hey, they didn't want me to listen to anything you say. So make sure you just, just turn the machine on or just throw it to me. He
Oh
made
my
a joke
God.
about it. So,
Yeah.
so, again, that's, that's a different. So for me, I try not to create indifference between what I teach and maybe what his hitting goes. I'll ask him, what do you work on? What is it that you work on with your guy? Okay. Oh, we work a lot on rhythm. I love it. I love rhythm. Rhythm is rhythm. Oh, we work a lot on, launch angle and creating more bat speed. You're a mature human being that already hits the ball over the fence.
Yeah.
Like, do you really think that's the most important thing, or should we maybe cut down on our strikeouts and maybe cut down on our, spray chart? Everything you hit on the right trajectory is to right center, but your power is to left field. Well, that's a problem. It doesn't do you any good to hit the ball 110 miles an hour to the pull side if you top spin everything because you're swinging up too much. So, maybe those are the kind of conversations you have for a player. Like, what matches the kind of player? How do you see the ball? Are you an early guy? Are you a late guy?
Right.
Maybe let's work on letting that ball travel a little bit more. Okay. Maybe let's let it travel an extra 2 or 3 inches just to retrain your brain and your eyes to work. Because I had a great couple conversations with Ryan Harrison about some of my players. So Ryan runs Slow the Game Down. His dad, we've talked about his dad, Bill, was, kind of the godfather of sports vision. And so when players have great swings that I work with and they struggle because they're always early, they pull balls foul, or they're always late, or they can't pull the trigger. It's either mental or vision, right? It's mental. They're freaking out. They're scared. They're tense. Okay. That's, we got people for that. Or their vision is off. And they're like, well, Jake, I don't wear contacts. I go to the eye doctor at school. I can read the 20/20 line. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But how are those eyes working together? And sure enough, it's always the same thing. One eye is doing all the work. And so their depth perception and their tracking abilities is off. And as soon as we fix that, all of a sudden their contact points get better. So sometimes it's that you need to go see a vision specialist and make sure your depth. I know you see 20/15, but let's make sure it's, your front eye or your back eye is not doing all the work. They need to work together. So, sometimes it's that, but you always have to deal with, I have a hitting guy.
Yeah.
And that's great. And what I want to do is I want to know what that hitting guy is teaching. And I want that player to, if you're part of the organization, hey, send me some clips, send me some video of what you're working on, just so I can kind of keep an eye of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that way I know when this guy comes back to spring training, if he's off compared to what happened last year, then I can go in and have a conversation and say, look at where you were when you were hitting the ball good. Look at what you're doing now. That's different.
Yeah.
What did you work on in the off season? And then maybe you don't work on that next off season, or maybe you get released.
Hopefully the vision story that you just talked about reminds me of the time David Ortiz had to go to a vision specialist when he was really struggling and get his sight corrected. I think that was the same year where he destroyed the phone in Baltimore. I think it was. I'm not 100% sure about that. You mentioned a point in there, though. I want to circle back to when you said, hey, this is what you might want to try to do: hit balls, to right center, go the opposite way, work on hitting balls hard that way, or you might not have a job next year coming out of spring training. Knowing that there are some guys, and I think every instructor in an organization, all player development people kind of know this, that it's could be for some guys make or break. If this is it, this off season, this could be it for them. If they don't have a good spring training coming out of that off season next year, they're done. We're just going to release them. How do you structure those? If anything's different here, how do you structure those meetings with professional hitters who are on the fringe of basically being released and coming out of the offseason, have a month basically to prove themselves that they can still be in your organization and be of some value?
Yeah, usually that's not my department. So I'm not going to make any assumptions about who's coming back and who's not coming back, because that's a farm director, or personnel. It's, for me, just being a coach, a hitting coach, it's, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. Now, I may hear, hey, this guy's on a short leash, he doesn't do this well, he doesn't do that well. Okay, so Johnny, you need to come back. I mean, Johnny knows too, right? Johnny sees the writing on the wall. Like, be any day now. You're going to need to come back and make a statement, and whether that's getting more physical. And that was one of the problems back in the day when steroids were really big. It was like, hey, you need to get yourself, and all of a sudden guys would come back like 30 pounds heavy. And you're like, oh my God, it's been 3 months. Like, what did you do to your body? So now it's, you need to get off to a good start in spring training. And sometimes that's very difficult. So prepare yourself. Make sure January 30th through February, 7th, you are facing velocity. Whether it's a machine or you're finding a pickup game or you're standing in somewhere, you need to see velocity because you can't give away your first 10 at bats when spring training comes around. And sometimes it's important, just to let them know that, you're not going to tell them, look, you're on a short leash, but hey, you need to come back ready to go. You're not going to get 30 at bats to get the rust off. Yeah. Make sure you're in shape. Make sure you're in batting shape when you get back.
That was a great answer. I'll tell you, somebody asked me recently about the Lindor trade. Would you make that trade for this organization? And I said, I don't know. I don't know the financials behind it. I really don't. I don't think I'm in the proper place to say one way or the other. And knowing Lindor's contract, I can't. I don't know if I can make that decision. So I like my point is I like your answer there that you said, well, it's not really my department, which, again, I feel like I'm quizzing you here. We're doing a job interview, but that is the right answer. But I think some people might be wondering that and players listening, hey, I'm down to my final spring training here. How are my off season? How are my meetings supposed to go here in the off season? But that was a very good answer.
Yeah. The Lindor deal, you got to figure out, I guarantee you there was communication on what is it going to take to re-sign you next year?
Right.
Do you want to be in New York here? Is this something? It's like bets, right?
And let's not forget about the arbitration value too, that he just got paid by the Mets as well. That's something to put into account.
The Indians saved a ton. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm getting back to the topic here. And we're talking about off-season hitter meetings here, episode 38 of the podcast. Let's go to college now. And you were doing this as of recent, and you still do, but you were the hitting coach for Mizzou. And what were let me just ask you straight out, what were the hitting meetings like in the off-season? And I'm talking about fall ball, from September to, the end of October, the hitter meetings in November, and then the hitter meetings in December, that final meeting before leaving for winter break. What were those hitter meetings like? How are they structured?
In the fall, you're getting to know everyone. So you're evaluating and you're creating relationships with guys. And, at Mizzou, Coach Beezer, really stressed staying in the zone, right? Not chasing pitchers' pitches, and so learning the strike zone. So nothing was super mechanical. It was a lot of it was, make sure we're thinking correctly. We had a 6-ball zone, 6.5 ball zone is how many balls, or if you lined up balls across home plate, ball 1 closest to you, ball 2 all the way to 6.5 or so. Okay. So we would say, we're going to work ball 5 and 6 today, middle away. That's what I want you to think about. That's what I want you to anticipate. And then we would set up, tees and machines accordingly. And then when we would get in games, they would still kind of have that approach. Yeah. And then sometimes it'd be like, okay, now our approach is ball 2 to 4, right? We want to look middle in, and we want to look to drive things. So that's a big part of it, and then getting their metrics, right? What are your swing metrics? So when I first inherited that team, their swing metrics were nowhere near where I liked them. So they were all dumping their barrel a lot. Yeah. Their vertical bat angle was very, very steep. And their attack angle was very, very steep, meaning they were swinging up closer to 20 degrees versus 10, and their vertical bat angles were like in the negative 40s. So that was, that was the first thing I wanted to see. Now, I didn't change anybody. I just was like, okay, wow, we have work to do. And then I, obviously talked to the coaches about it. This is how we need to attack this. And instead of telling every player what they needed to do, I slowly just began implementing drills that would help with those numbers. We would do a 2T drill, or I would set the fastball machine up instead of at the shins, I would set it up at the belt at a high spin rate. And if you lost your barrel and your bat vertical angle was bad, you would swing and miss at like 30 balls in a row. And they'd be like, oh, geez, this is really bad. Okay, hey, try this. How about this move? Oh, that feels pretty good. Oh man, now I'm hitting that pitch. And then we would go back to low. So that was kind of the process. And then, moving through the fall, you're figuring out what guys do and trends and what kind of hitter you think they're going to be. And then when they go home in the fall, it's, hey, you got to come back and earn a spot. You're a freshman. We got, 20 freshmen and there's only 5 spots, for you to go. What is your role here? Like we had one player, Josh is awesome. He was a good kid. And Josh was fast and he created havoc on the bases. And he was the worst bunter we had. He was a left-handed speed guy that couldn't bunt. Like, what in God's name is your value? And his exit velocity wasn't above 92. Like, he wasn't he was only 160 pounds. Yeah. But he was a good hitter. He hit a lot of line drives. He hit doubles, you get him down the line. But it was like, you need to learn how to bunt. You need to bunt 300 balls a day when you go home. You need to find a machine or whatever, crank that sucker up and just bunt. Because if you can't bunt when you come back, there's no spot for you. You know what I mean? So that, it might be a conversation like that, or it might be a conversation with, okay, you need to go home and then just stay sharp. You had a good fall. Let's build on this fall and let's get going. But a lot of that is the same. You have 6, maybe 4 weeks off, 5 weeks off. You don't see them. This year was more because of Thanksgiving and nobody the colleges didn't want guys coming back for 2 weeks before the semester. So everybody stayed home, because of COVID. So they were home for 6 weeks. And the most important thing, I think, from the coaches that I talked to this offseason, this extended offseason for college, was see velocity. Like, especially in softball, because their season usually starts a week or 2 earlier than baseball. It's like, don't go home and just do T work. Like, go home and see some velocity. So I would personally, once I had the relationship with the players, this is what you're doing and this is what you need to work on. Remember these drills? Because what's your issue? And I'd ask them, well, I tend to do this, right? Yeah. They know the answer because I've shown them the answer on video. Here's your misses. Here's your spray chart. When you hit the ball, if it's a right-handed hitter and you're a little bit late, well, let's go the other way. There's a player there that's very gifted, and he's a left-handed hitter, and he had great pull side power. Great pull side power, and he didn't hook. Like, great backspin, pull side power. Yeah. And when he would go the other way, he would just, he was terrible. Like, he would just hit weak fly balls to left fielder about 300 feet, 280 feet. Yeah. And so the thought was, you don't pull balls foul, so we don't have to worry about that. But when you're 4 inches late, you're terrible. Like, when you're 4 inches late, you're like, you hit under 100. When you make contact at this point, you hit like 450. Yeah. So what I want you to do is move your contact point up a little bit. Because we tried, hey, I want you to hit the top half of the ball, so when you hit balls to the opposite field, you hit these low line drives instead of these weak fly balls. Well, that didn't work. You couldn't do that. So the next thing is, hey, let's see if we can move our contact point up. Don't be late. And then all spring, I'm like, don't be late. Get that bat hit. Get your stride going. Get your rhythm going, just to change his timing. And it probably took him 6 months to do that. And he could be an all SEC player this year. Like, this is a year later, a year and a half later, where he's not a freshman anymore. But sometimes it's not mechanical. Sometimes it's rhythm and timing and knowing where you're good and where you're not good, and then minimizing the spots where you aren't good. But for a player like that, if he got a fastball down the middle early in the count, or the middle third of the plate, a good pitch to hit, and he was late and fouled it off, I'd chew his ass. Like, what are you looking for? Like, how are you late on a fastball? You're not good when you're late. You're not a guy that can shoot the ball down the opposite field line. So what is your thinking? That was the one pitch you had and you were late on it. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I guess I wasn't thinking. You just gave away that at bat. You probably gave away a couple RBIs too, and that pisses me off because we could have been up, 2-0 in the first inning. So things like that. So you have to. Sometimes players need a heavier hand, and sometimes guys, need to be coddled a little bit. And that's what's fun about being a hitting instructor, is you have all this knowledge and you know what works and you know what works, but you're not the one in the box anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy's got a different personality. He sees the game through a much different lens than you did when you played. How can we get them better? And I think that's the problem with some of the hitting Twitter, Instagram stuff that's going on, is you have guys that played the game, that know what it's like and know how hard it is. And then you have guys that just say, hey, coil up and snap this thing. But there's so many other aspects to hitting than just swinging the bat hard.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a really good hitting coach. It's not necessarily being a technician all the time. It's being a friend. It's being a mentor. And sometimes it's being in a position of authority where you have to push players into being their best selves.
Yeah. Great. That was a great point. Great way to end that part of
thanks, Jim. I appreciate
the question. That was good. That was very good. That was
it wasn't bad. That was one of my better ones.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
French roast today. Extra dark.
You're an extra dark guy, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more of a I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts kind of pod guy. Yeah. You mentioned something in there though, contact points, for example. When hitters go home for 4 weeks, how do you make sure, because you're giving them a plan to work on for those 4 weeks, how do you make sure that they're actually going to do it? I understand, and it's a broad question, and I know that it's on them to do it, but how do you make sure, what can you give in those meetings that makes them emphasize what they need to work on to come back better in January and go into the season?
Yeah, I mean, if they send you video, that's helpful. If they use Blast, a lot of teams will use the other one, Diamond Kinetics.
Sure.
If they use that information and it's tied to me, I can log in and see that, okay, I know if their bat speed is 3 or 4 miles an hour less than their max, or than their pull side, and their attack angle is a couple degrees less, I know that they're working on letting the ball get deeper. Or vice versa, if we're working on getting the bat head out in front, I know if we're seeing a tick in barrel speed and maybe a tick in a tick in bat speed, as well as attack angle goes up a little bit, then they're probably going more pull side. So that's one way to check on them, but honestly, it's not my job to check on them.
Right.
I mean, they're grown men and they need to be accountable for their actions. And if they're not, they don't play. And once you get to the college level, that's how it is. And pro level, if you don't play, somebody else will.
Right.
And that's what they have to understand. They have to understand that there is somebody nipping at their heels, or, hey, you're the guy. Hey, take that guy's job. I mean, we had a guy, I remember when I was playing, we had a freshman come in. I think I was a sophomore at the time. Freshman came in. We had an All-American center fielder, a right fielder. I don't know what Fry played. Amazing, but one of the best players I ever played with. And this freshman came in and said, I'm going to take his job.
Yeah.
And he said it verbally. So what we did was we hazed the heck out of him, and we, taped him to a chair, and we, locked him in the bathroom for. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, careful.
Mike Leach.
Careful
was
now.
That Mike Leach that did that one? Put him in the porta potty.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the Peyton Manning at Saturday Night Live. That's what it was.
Well, Mike Leach did something. I know you're alluding to.
He did. I think it was a trailer of some kind. But no, I mean, it's like, you can't come in like that. But that's the attitude. Look, you got to take somebody's job. So you're in two positions. You either got to keep your job because this guy's nipping at your heels, or you're close, man. You got to take that job. Why don't you use the next 6 weeks on your own or 4 weeks on your own to take somebody's job?
Sure.
And it's a fine line in college, because in pro ball, that's what it is, like cutthroat. I don't care who that guy is. I'm in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
I'm going to step on his back to get to the next level. Like, I don't care. In college, you have to create an environment where it's one unit and everybody loves each other, but you also have that dynamic where people are competing to make each other better. Yeah. But when that happens, you also have guys that get their feelings hurt. So that's a tough one, but you have to self-motivate players without alienating other players. Like, hey, I want you to try to take his job, right? If he goes home and he doesn't work hard, I need you to step up and do it. But right now you're number 2 on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I want you to be number 1. I like you. and you're going to need to be number one for this team to be successful. And then when the other kid comes in, hey man, he's pushing you. Don't sit on your hands the next 4 weeks. You better come back better, because he's going to come take your job. All right, Ep, I'll make sure I get work done. So
Oh, it's life.
It's a fun. It's life. It's absolutely life.
Sorry.
And that's your job as a coach, is to motivate and to push and to love, right? And to create relationships where that player, trusts you, knowing that you're out for them. I mean, that's the great part about being a coach. You're not competing with anyone.
Yeah.
You're trying to make every player, and if those players see that you are invested in them and you care for them, your players will do anything for you.
Let's move on to high school hitters here and their meetings. How do you set up their winter meetings? You're getting a chance to work with them really after fall ball and throughout until the rest of the winter and into the spring. They're not going anywhere. They're not like pro or college guys, unless they go to a different instructor. Why would they? Right? What kind of meetings do you have with those guys and gals, and how do you structure those meetings?
We're preparing. So, the high school, it's so different, high school, there's one of my buddies here, coaches a high school team, and he's excellent, and he's invested, and he's a full-time coach and athletic director. He coaches baseball and softball, so he doesn't have to worry about, teaching chemistry, during the day. And he does reports. He just did analysis on all the players that were trying out and what they needed to get better with and what they needed to work on. And what they're doing now is they can do some, I don't know when it starts, but they can, the season starts later here, especially because of COVID, but they can start chipping away at those everybody's issue. So it's the same thing. You have to evaluate. Not everybody is in the same boat. Okay, this kid needs to do this. This player needs to do this. So it's very similar to college. What I would do as a high school coach is I would know what they're doing. Hey, what are you doing to get better? Like, I see you from, because a lot of schools, at least in Texas, they have class, they have baseball class, right, all year long. So from like whatever 2:30 to 3:30 every day, they go to baseball. They lift in the morning at like 6 a.m. before. That doesn't count, but then they can go to baseball class, and when the weather's good, but they at least see them and evaluate them. Well, then we see the players come into the lab at 7:30 at night, and they get extra hitting in to prepare themselves. So that's where I like to have great relationships, me as the lab owner, not a high school coach, with those high school coaches. Hey, what do you want us to work on? Is there anything specific? Because I don't want to have a bad relationship. Oh, don't listen to this guy. You need to work on this. So, is it, hey, he needs to work on breaking balls? Great. I want you to take, the majority of your time today on the slider machine. Or you need to see velo. Okay, you need this. Or he's got a barrel drop. Okay, go in this cage with Matt and work on your mechanics. So that's the kind of open relationships you want to have with different people. Now, the high school gets a little iffy because a lot of high school coaches also work for facilities, at least in the state of Colorado. They've kind of, it's illegal, like in Texas. Like I thought it was illegal here too. But so there's a lot of guys that kind of, you should take lessons from these guys. And that, regardless of what it is, everyone needs to be in the same boat. And that's very, very important. I worked with a high school team the other day. It's like they were going to a showcase. And so it was 13 kids, and they pretty much, probably went to 6 or 7 different high schools in the whole Denver metro area. And so we were, working on things, and one of the kids said, oh man, and one of the guys plays at the, a couple schools that I know. And so they're like, yeah, I showed my coach what we were working on, the video, and they were like so fired up about it. And then one guy was like, no, you got to snap your wrist through, because this kid had a really top hand dominant. I was like, you got to, and I show him a picture of Nolan Arenado. Rich, everybody knows Nolan Arenado here. And Arenado doesn't roll over like ever. His bottom hand or his top hand stays underneath all the way into his extension position, into his follow through. So I said, you need a little bit of this because you flip a little early. Showed it in slow motion. The coach was like, no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so the kid came back. We had a second session, and I was like, okay, well,
yeah,
that's probably the last time your coach will ever talk to you. So just don't show him anything again.
Right.
But there's a guy that's closed-minded, or, I don't work at their facility, you know,
yeah. Or just don't listen to them, right? Yeah.
Right. It was, and so what it is, but that's very, very common. Like, you know, I mean, you had mentioned off air about a guy that, you know, a hitting coach that said, hey, you should try this. And the guy didn't listen to him. And then he went and worked with his regular hitting coach who told him the same thing. And it was okay.
Right.
And that's a level of trust. And that's a level of respect that, you know, people need to have, that coaches need to have with their players, so you don't run into that.
Before we wrap up our show this week, did I miss anything as it pertains to off-season hitter meetings, just as a whole?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as a coach, you have to weigh here's what you need to do to get better. And here's what you currently do really well. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't be too, oh man, everything's great, don't change a thing, because then they'll just be like, okay, cool, man, I got a job when I come back, I'm good. And you also don't want to say like, oh my gosh, you got to fix this, you got to fix this, you got to fix this, and then the player goes home and is like, I don't even know where to start. So you have to, you know, you have to be able to motivate and give positive information at the same time you're telling them what exactly they need to work on to be better, so that they can be in the starting lineup when they come back.
Right. It sounds so simple, and you make it sound so simple, but it is a lot. It's really complicated. And the way that great coaches can weave through is pretty spectacular, in my opinion. It's not easy.
It's why some coaches win. Right. I mean, year in and year out with different players, and big budgets and small budgets. There's a reason why some coaches are really, really good, and it doesn't matter where they are, they get the most out of their players, and that's an inherent ability. It's not, you can't force yourself to be somebody you're not. Yeah.
All right, well, great stuff this week. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. New episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. That's in America, of course. The show is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and the app, and Pandora as well. And our YouTube page is up and running with archived episodes and clips from those episodes as well. Follow us on social media, our favorite platforms, Twitter and Instagram, at Jim Tara and at Epstein Hitting. And if you haven't done so already, go back in the archives and check out our Mechanical Breakdown series episodes and follow along with the analysis. Just go to the Epstein Hitting Facebook page. I know it's a lot for everybody, but you can always, that's a great thing about podcasting. You can go back and push the 15-second reverse button and go back to listen to everything I just said, all those directions. It's very easy.
I love the 15-second rewind button.
Yeah. And I love the 30-second go through too, you know.
Not on this podcast, though.
No, I hope they don't do that when we're promoting the Epstein Online Hitting Academy. That wouldn't be good.
It's okay. Most of them are probably members.
Yeah. Next week, episode number 39, we're going back to our Mechanical Breakdown series, volume 8. We've already done 7 Mechanical Breakdown series. I think we have, right? I mean, that
sounds about right.
Yeah. I'll have to double check on that, but volume 8 Mechanical Breakdown series next week. And we'll let you know next week who that will be.
Ooh.
Little suspense.
Can't wait. Those are always fun.
Yes. So we'll do that next week. Thank you for listening, and stay safe. We'll see you and talk to you very soon. Take care.